How's it going, everybody? It's Pilot Flame, and we're back. A long overdue video. I apologize for that. The patch notes came out actually a few days before I expected. And yeah, we're just gonna get straight into it. Had a bunch of other things going on, juggling some new content in Final Fantasy 14. But yeah, we're gonna go straight into it. So these are some of the changes that were made um, in in mid of the patch. Okay, so basically Poppy had a bug fix that was changed. Same with Rengar. Sona's base AD was increased by 5. Her base attack damage growth was lowered by 1. And then they made it. They nerfed the self haste. I believe that's back to what it was before, if not worse. Um, I can't remember, and I don't know the exact math. But as we know, for all mathematical changes, you check out Freak's channel, and for competitive side of things, check out LS's channel. Soraka, the infusion cooldown was actually uh, buffed on Soraka by, I think, by the looks of it. So 6 scaling down to 2 seconds, and then 40 to 60 mana versus 50 to 70 mana. But then they reduced the HP reduction is reduced by 60% to 100% rather than 40%. So you can use it more often early, but I guess it's geared towards more being a support rather than a top laner. I'm not sure how much that affected her in competitive play. Um, and then the Balmy Cinder was the change where it was a pulse rather than just like constant damage. They seem to have just slightly tuned those numbers, and they reduced the cooldown. I guess it was clearing a bit too fast. Bug fixes on Victor as well as Trundle, and they do these nice little patch like kind of previews here. So buffs, we have Amumu, Caitlyn, Darius, Diana, Garen, Gnar, Jace, Lux, Mordekaiser, Rammus, Silas, Talon, Udyr, and Zed, and they're nerfing Aurelion, Soul, Aphelios, Singed, Sona, and Soraka. The Blood Moon line looks quite nice. Gonna be very difficult to tell whether whatever champion that could be, even though I know it's Katarina. But yeah, you could also told me that this was Varus if you stuck a bow in his hand, but yeah. Let's see what they did. So, Amumu, they increased the dash speed of his Q, which is, it's going to be quite faster, a lot faster. Um, Stops enemies in the middle of the dashes, and it has a lower cooldown. So, Amumu could potentially be a jungler that goes like a, can be like a hybrid version, similar to Gragas, where you can go a multitude of different builds. Um, where you can go full tank Amumu with the Cinderhulk. You can also still go Cinderhulk into like Leandries or something like that, and it's super effective that way. But yeah, I think that's a great change. You may see people picking Amumu up in competitive. Pretty sure LS shed more light on this, but it looks really good to me because just over a 2-minute cooldown. I'm not sure if Cinderhulk still gets CDR, but yeah, I mean, it's a very impactful ult, especially now that it stops people in the middle of their dashes as well. So, Aphelios, let's see what they did here. So, Aphelios is the Galaxy Brain Marksman whose kit has a billion things you have to learn. Yes. It stresses out opponents. It's very easy to kind of manage Aphelios on a base level. So, he's a really low floor, but he has a really high ceiling. But his floor is so good that it doesn't matter if you play him optimally. So, Weapons of the Faithful. Players can now see both guns Aphelios is holding next to his health bar. That's good. The only thing I would like them to add is to see what gun he could have next. Just because that's, yeah. It's a bit annoying mid-fight to not know what gun he's going to have. I guess it will, you could see his 2 guns, and it will swap automatically to his offhand, but then he could surprise you with the 3rd gun that he only knows. So I guess that's a little bit of counterplay that you want to keep Aphelios for. Calibrum, the sniper rifle. Aphelios no longer resets his attack timer right after consuming his mark attack. Timer still resets for the mark attack. Okay. And just slowing down as I guess this range DPS. And then Chrysanthemum Chakram Sentry range indicator are now red for enemies when it's active. Number of attacks, it does 3 instead of 4. The number of attacks still scale with attack speed. Against ranged champions, it does basic attacks deal 3 damage and essential 6 health. AoE, they deal 4 damage, and then Aphelios no longer accidentally dies upon sentries don't die upon. Okay, that's just a bug fix. And then the range of his ult is slightly shorter. So basically, another thing with the ult that's also kind of a clarity problem is that you don't know what ult's coming out. So they're all the same color. So when he shoots the ult, it could be the Infernum, it could be the Gravitum, so you don't know if you're getting CC'd or AoE'd down. So if they could change the colors based on the weapons, that would probably be better, but obviously for colorblind people, or color deficient people like myself, it's still a bit tricky even with the colorblind mode on. But yeah, when you see something come from Fog War, it's like, do I have to flash out of this because it's going to root me, or can I still take the damage? Like, I don't know. But yeah, overall, still good changes in the right direction. Aphelios will still be picked, even though he is very easy to take down because there's no innate gap closers, and his laning phase isn't great, especially levels 1 through 4, and even more so 1 through 2. Yeah, Aurelian Soul. So they're just decreasing the active star damage by 10%. Okay, sure. I think the only person that picks Aurelian Soul is Huhi, and he plays support in the academy team, as far as I know now. I'm not sure if it was picking up competitive play, if this is just a solo queue thing. I'm not too sure. Caitlyn's bonus attack speed at level 1 is an extra 10%, so people, I don't know how much this impacts her level 1 attack speed, yeah, we'll have to see. Garen, obviously buffing him back up a little bit because of the Garen Yumi comps, and I guess it was over nerfed. So his Q has extra 0.1, so 10% added on the ratio, and his W max resistances from enemy kills Garen increases bonus armor magic resist by 10%, and the shield is now a flat shield of 70 scaling up to 170 plus 0.2 bonus health. So let's go on the assumption that Garen has 3000 HP. 3000 HP, 0.1 of 3000 HP is a 300 damage shield, whereas now, if you get 170 of that, if his base health at level 18 is, I would assume it's somewhere in the 2300 range, 2200 range. I'm not even entirely sure, but let's say it's 2k. It's gonna work out to be about the same. I think it's just better. I think it's gonna be better earlier on if you put the 2 points or 3 points into it. This is something that you check for each patch notes for, because I don't know the math, but it's gonna be about the same. It's just this is the best one. Best part about it here is that you get 10% bonus armor MR, which makes him even tankier. Gnar has his base movement speed increased by 10. That's quite big. And then passive, Rage Team bonus movement speed was lowered in mini Gnar form to obviously balance out the base movement speed. And then our Gnar now has 0.5 attack damage and 1.0 ability power scaling. So we could potentially see some more damage-oriented Gnars, depending, because that's obviously quite significant. Obviously something like a Black Cleaver is going to give you a little bit more oomph to it. So your 1-arm power spike is going to be better. The 1.0 ability power ratio is a bit scary, because you could potentially go like a Nashor's Tooth, potentially, because it gives you 20% CDR, it gives you attack speed, it gives you AP. And I can't remember if his W actually scales off of ability power as well, the proc. Yeah, that could be a significant change. We may see some different builds coming out of Gnar. Again, I don't know. He's being somewhat picked in competitive from what I've seen, but not to the extent which people could basically abuse him. Jace increased base mana, and his mana growth is increased, and his Q does more damage. Obviously, very good to Jace. And he's going to be able to harass you more in lane. So could potentially see some more Jace picks, but the mana growth is definitely good. You can go more of a just straight lethality build rather than just having to go tier. But obviously with the mana buffs, tier also benefits you later on in the game too. Lux Q damage was increased by 10 at all ranks, and the ratio is down by 0.1. So it's buffing support Lux. Okay, sure. And then the cooldown was decreased by 2 seconds, scaling down to 0 seconds at ranks 1 through 5. So, does this change mid lane Lux? Super late game, it will. But early game it helps Lux support. I mean, Lux, if you get hit by a binding, the binding's not going to be the thing that kills you. It's going to be the laser, it's going to be the E, it's going to be the proc of the passive, you know. Lux can now flash while casting Final Spark. Her ultimate won't follow her when she flashes. Okay, so she can like go to cast the Final Spark and then flash away from somebody that's going to ram his taunter or something. But yeah, overall, decent changes. Support Lux, a little bit more viable. Doesn't really affect Lux by looks of it until late game, so I like the changes, and this is quite good, so you don't get animation locked, I guess. Base attack speed ratio increased. Okay, so it is up by this very smallest margin. Does that bring Rammus into the meta? No, that's an insignificant change. Singed base health by 30 and armor by 3. I mean, Singed is still going to be Singed if you know how to play him and irritate the enemy. You're still going to be Singed, to be honest. Sona Aura now grants mana at first ally tag. Okay, so basically this is a nerf to obviously people playing top Sona, so the mana cost is obviously increased. So now basically Sona gains mana if she tags an ally with her aura. So it actually is cheaper if you're with an ally at all ranks. So if I use my, let's say my max rank Q, 95 mana, I get 30 mana back. So it's a spend of 65, so it's 5 mana at all ranks. For the heal, it's the same thing, 5 at all ranks, and the E as well. It's the same thing. So basically, it's enforcing people to play Sona as she was meant to be played, which is down in the support role. And then Soraka, base Q stats adjusted, Q self heal rejuvenation, heal duration and bonus move speed decreased, Q cost increased, W health cost decreased when rejuvenating, and heal increased later. So chipping at her top lane potency, of course we want to keep the impact of her support minimal as she's not performing over there. So her base health is increased, her health growth has decreased, which means that this probably benefits her in support because early levels is a little bit, it doesn't catch up right away. Base mana obviously benefits both lanes. The mana growth is quite a big hit by the looks of it there. So she's going to have less mana overall. AD 0.04 is not going to matter. Star Calls, so the damage was cut by quite a bit. So it's not going to be easy to deal as much damage, and the AP is down as well. So you're going to be strictly relying on just being a heal bot, basically. You're not going to be able to poke people out or anything like that in lane. Rejuvenation heal duration is, instead of 5 seconds, 2.5 seconds. So basically you heal way faster. The cost is slightly more, and the movement speed you get is less. So basically you're going to be more susceptible to getting return fire, basically, if you're in the top lane. But obviously in a duo lane, the regen is going to be obviously more prevalent. W, Astral Infusion. While Soraka is rejuvenated, the 10% maximum health cost for casting Astral Infusion will be reduced by 40 to... Okay. So, If you're in a duo lane, the cost of using W is way less if you hit your Q first. So you get basically rewarded for queuing somebody, hitting it, and then Wing them afterwards. And then the heals obviously is slightly stronger as well. So overall, support Soraka's going to see a bit of play. Top Soraka's probably not going to be as good. What you may see is people start off with Soraka in the top lane, and then potentially um, utilize her in a way to where she basically becomes the second support, in a sense. So you could potentially have a support that, like a mage as an example, someone that can basically still consume some form of farm, or basically be able to to basically just hold a wave or something like that, and then have the Soraka go with the 80 carry, post like first tower down or something like that. Be a bit interesting, but again, competitive aspects, I'm not sure how much was being picked in the other regions. I know obviously solo queue is being picked. I've tested it myself and it was pretty good. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Silas is getting a little bit damage on his Q. Not gonna change too much there. Udyr, passive, now gets 5% off his global cooldown, the time between when you can switch dances per Cloud Drake buff. Okay, that's not too bad. Just a little bit of quality of life there, more or less. Jungle champions. Okay, so Darius can now heal from large monsters and deals more damage. Diana deals 150% to epic monsters. Garen deals. Okay, so basically they're just making it so that your abilities that would do damage to monsters do a bit more, so you can jungle them. So Darius, Diana, Garen, Gnar, Mordekaiser, Talon, and Zed not all necessarily can jungle, but now they can. So Garen can jungle because of his E doing more damage to the camps. Darius can now heal off the camps, which is quite nice. Um, Zed's now does more damage. His passive, as well as the minimum execute range is higher by 80 on the smaller minions. So it's quite interesting. Um, Mid-season, so the 10.3 follow-up changes. These were documented as mid-patch for 10.3, but we want to include them in case you missed them. So basically, Akali's E was slightly buffed in damage. Her perfect execution cooldown was lowered significantly, and her R1 execute damage was increased. And then Lucian had a bug fix change, and then Yumi had her Q damage increased, and the power damage increased, as well as her heal increased at later ranks. Exhaust now lasts 3 seconds, and now shows how much damage is being reduced on the, I guess on the tooltip, probably. So that's just going to be even more annoying. Hail of Blades is now 3 seconds between attacks, and out of combat is 8 seconds rather than 4. Yeah, so it's, I guess that makes it so that you can't just constantly proc it. Um, sure. I'm not sure how much this affects like Rek'Sai and stuff like that, but the Freak will probably know a bit more on that. We've seen the Bloodline often 2 for 80 carries, so they're just basically increasing the kills per stack by 25. So you get you need more to get the Bloodline minion kills, or is all of them? Okay. We're slowing down all of the legend runes, stacking, farming versus killing. Specifically relies on stacking up. Okay, I mean it's gonna affect all of them, so people are still gonna pick Bloodline anyway, from the looks of it, to me. Stopwatch is really good right now. So stopwatch that becomes a grants commencing stopwatch at 10 minutes. Grants commencing stopwatch that becomes a replica stopwatch at 14 minutes. Takedown cooldowns reduce timer by 2 minutes. You can't push it. Underground no longer accidentally additionally reduces the cooldown of Guardian Angel, Gargoyle Stoneplate, and Zonia's Hourglass by 15%. Okay. And the cost of it is cheaper. So, commencing stopwatch that becomes a replica stopwatch at 14 minutes. Okay, so it's way later to get the stopwatch. Um, I'm a bit confused on this one. So it's definitely worse because obviously it's 10 minutes versus 14. Obviously takedown reduce it by 2 minutes, but is it different from an actual stopwatch? I'm not too sure on that the wording's a bit weird. I know that obviously the CDR is not going to be there anymore, but yeah. Phase rush, 4 seconds versus 3 from before, and then the increase to 30 to 50% for melee champions. So this is obviously a good buff to the likes of Nasus, like of Udyr, champions that use that. Omni Stone will no longer give the player Press the Attack or Conqueror as their first rune, as they are hard to trigger level 1. Okay. Bug fix on Unflinching. The Balmy Cinder line, which we went over before, which is now Pulse rather than a constant AoE. Slow resistance calculation adjustment. We're making adjustments on how slow resistance stacks on a champion, how much tenacity is stacking. Now slow will stack multiplicatively instead of linearly. As an example, 230% slows effects will now will reduce slows by 51% rather than 60%. Okay. Login region / shore, crash reporting, and then a bunch of bug fixes, and then the chroma skins for the champions. So those look obviously quite nice. We saw those from before. And there's Trendemir. That looks kind of like the Blood Moon Yasuo one as well. Just a different sword basically. But they're a cool skin line. These two colors, I like the yellow and orange. That's quite nice, or green and orange. The Master Yi one, they're okay. I don't think the color schemes were picked very well there. And the darker Katarina looks quite nice out of those as well. So yeah, let's just do a quick rundown of what we just discussed briefly. So, of the changes, Amumu got a huge buff, could see some competitive play. Caitlyn, a little bit more attack speed in lane, so it's going to be a good bit of changes. Whether this makes her broken or not, who knows. Darius, Diana, Garen, Gnar, Zed, Talon, Mordekaiser are all now can basically do a little more damage to jungle camps if you so choose to jungle them. Zed could potentially be an interesting one. Coming from the jungle, as you could basically kind of use him, not in a similar way to Echo, but an assassin that's basically kind of slippery, that can do some damage out of the jungle, and especially because War Enchant is so good. Jace is going to be a little bit more harassing in lane. Lux support was slightly buffed. Rammus was basically insignificant. Silas was insignificant. And the Aphelios changes make it so that you can actually play against them now. And Sun and Soraka top were hit decently as well. That's going to do it for the patch 10.4 rundown. Make sure to check out the YouTube channel. Make sure to check us out and give us a follow and subscribe on both platforms of Twitch and YouTube. Pilot Flame 226 is the channel name for both of them, and make sure to check the links in the description for Freaks for more of the mathematical breakdowns of all the things we've discussed today, and the more competitive side of things. Be sure to check out LS's channel as well. And I apologize again for the patch notes being late, but we got it done in the end. I'm really curious to see the Amumu changes and how they pan out, because it could be quite interesting, especially with the new Cinderhole. So yeah, that's going to do it for this video. And like I said, be sure to check it out on the different platforms. And until the next patch video, happy days on the Rift, everyone.